Hi folks, welcome to another interview. We are here right now with my good friend, Frisco Boogie. How you doing, my friend?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fantastic, man, fantastic. The weather's been good, so we're all good, man. We're all good with that.
Yeah, it's not the same here. It's proper cloudy today.
Is it?
Yeah,
Oh,
we're not sharing that good weather today.
Not good, man. Not good. Not good. We've spoken before on our old podcast, so it's good to get you back on this, which are sort of newer audience as well. So always good to get you back on, man. You're a Nottingham-based MC. Do you want to? I think we should probably start again with your backstory. How you started getting into rap music and stuff.
Yeah, I'm a Nottingham-based MC. I've been rhyming and producing for embarrassingly about 30 years. I've been writing, probably making beats for about 20. I started my musical career there as a percussionist. I was a drummer. It's a cliche, but started banging on pots and pans and, upside down buckets and things when I was about 8 years old. Then went to music school when I was about 15 and got seriously into playing the drums, and then played drums for years. And then through secondary school, I got into hip hop. Through sort of, and it all sounds like a cliche, but Run DMC, banging on the chemistry desk when we're meant to be doing work. Me and a few of my friends, Chris Graham, Dennis Teeling, trying to learn the words of Sucker MCs, to recite it in the playground, as we all did at a certain age. And then, hip hop just stayed with me throughout until present day.
Yeah. Did you start off like sort of rapping in an American accent and stuff like that? I take it.
Yep.
London Pussy would not have been out at that time, I don't think.
It was. We all rapped in an American accent. I think throughout the time, really, everyone has touched upon that American accent. Even if you watch some interviews with the great London MCs, they'll tell you when they first started, they rapped in American accents, but people finished at different times. We were, I'll be honest, I was probably one of the later ones to finish with the accent. It's just something we did. We were influenced by American MCs. When we started rapping, there wasn't a ton of British MCs that were out there. There was a lot of MCs, but nobody kind of leading the way to influence at the time. So we all rapped in an American accent at some point, and then slowly but surely it dropped off. And I'll be honest, I was one of the later ones to lose the accent. But then when you lose it, then you just start, you kind of realize that you just better to rap in your own accent, find your own voice. Sometimes it takes longer to actually find your own voice.
Because we spoke the last time about your work rate and stuff like that as well. You sort of prefer working yourself a lot of the time.
Yeah. And at the moment, I'm on it. I'm really on it at the moment. I put out, this will be my third album in about 14 months. Since Masks of the Morning Sun, and then last album was Rainbows in the Rubble, and then this album coming out, which we'll talk about in a bit, called Circus. I'm just really enjoying working on music at the moment. I do like to work on my own, not because I don't like any other MCs or producers, but I just find it easier at times when you're trying to develop yourself and trying to get stuff out. If you're waiting for someone to send you a verse, or waiting for someone to send you a beat, or to do scratches or singing, your destiny's in their hands for a portion of your project. And I had an instant on Mask of the Morning Sun when I was waiting for a feature verse from a good friend of mine in New York called Gage. Some people might remember Gage the Mental Murderer, from sort of Ruckus days. Amazing MC, good friend of mine. And because of lockdown and COVID, everything in New York was shut down, so he couldn't get to a studio. Plus, he was working on his own album, so I'd already had the vision of him being on the album, and it was sort of, okay, I don't want to not have that vision with him on the album. However, I'm waiting and waiting, and eventually he was on the album, but with a voice note, not a verse. But I just needed him on there somehow. But it made me start to think, actually, if you want features, you got to send them out early. You got to get them out before you start your project, because then at least if it takes me 6 months for the project, I've got 5 months I can wait for someone. But I've got to shout out Montana the Menace. started talking on the internet, sent him a beat, 2 weeks turn around, sent me his verses and his brother's verses really quick. And I loved that. It was lovely working with him, you know, even virtually working with him. But his work rate was great. Sent it through, got it mixed, and that'll be on the new album with Lee Ramsey's on there as well.
Nice.
So yeah, working with other people is good, but it just restricts you if you want to get things out, if people don't work on the same time frame as you. But someone will be saying in a podcast somewhere in some parallel universe that, you know, I sent Frisco this and, you know, he took 3 weeks to send when he said he'd take 2. So we're all in the same boat, I think, at times.
Well, I think interestingly as well, the last time you brought up COVID there, we were at sort of deep in lockdown the last time we spoke.
Yeah.
Have you had a chance, like I know some places are open, but not like nightclubs and stuff. Have you had a chance to get out there and do some like open mic things or anything like that?
No, the only thing, and I'm not going to say no as in no opportunities. It's not something that's on my radar at the moment, doing live stuff. The days when we used to rap live, you know, 20 odd years ago, and even if I'm hosting shows, I love that. But actually performing, it's something that I've really got to think about this time if I really want to take it to that level and do that as much. Recently, a friend of mine, Joe Buddha, a lot of, you know, people that are into hip hop will know Joe Buddha from Kalashnikov, Rodney P, Harley Blue, loads of people he's worked with. He's kind of putting kind of like a documentary documenting Nottingham's kind of 90s hip hop artists. So a few weeks ago, we all got together, myself, MC Law from Pure Genius, if people remember from Pure Genius, who was also in Logix, MC Logix with Joe Buddha years ago, if we're going to take it right back. Mr. 45, so if people remember Mr. 45, as in Radford, you get me? 45 was there, Tower Montana was there, Kittis and Headcase was there, Vandal Savage, who was on the last album, was there, and we all just recorded our old tunes from way back in the day, which was really good to do. It was fun. I went to school with a few of these guys anyway, so it was good to get together and interesting to rap your old stuff from like 22, 23 years ago. So luckily I could remember my verses and got 2 verses out, quite proud of that, and in a British accent. So it was very interesting to record that. So
did you have to go back for everything just to sort of refresh yourself?
I couldn't find the beat because we never did an instrumental of the song I was doing. So I looped up the beat myself, and the 2 verses actually that I did were verses for some reason have always stuck with me. So I didn't really have to go and learn those again. I was kind of like, when I started on them, they just flowed. So yeah, it was interesting, and it was good to just get everyone together. So we may follow that up in end of July with kind of like a b-boy barbecue, you know, with maybe some live stuff, some live graffiti, which hopefully I'll be painting.
I'm sold. I'm coming to that.
Hey, do you know, if you want to take the journey down, it will be interesting. I spoke to Blade the other day, and you know, mentioned it to Blade as well. But it's just if people can get up, and it's, you know, it's quite far for a few people. But yeah, it should be a good day. I'm
definitely up for that, man. I'll try and sort the trip for that, man, for sure. So again, the Nottingham scene, we spoke a little bit about this the last time. I think it's best to cover it. Is it as cutthroat as the London scene is? Like, are you all kind of more friendly and stuff like that up there? Still a bit of beef now and again.
Nottingham's tiny compared to London. Do you know ratio of MCs though? If you're looking at back in the day, the ratio of MCs was a lot of MCs came out of Nottingham. You know, if you think of, you know, we've got the Capos who myself and Styly C originally had on our Lost Island album. You know, you've got the 4-5s, you've got the Kittis and Headcase, you've got Pure Genius, you had KID, 36 Philly, Juggernaut, Scorsese, Lee Ramsey, Temper, Simone. You know, you can kind of go on. Nottingham, and if I've missed anyone out, I apologise, but Nottingham's had a very, very high standard caliber of MCs that have over the years have put out good material, regardless of the American accent. Forget that. If we're talking beats, bars, and flow, Nottingham was I would put Nottingham, you know, near the top of the tier UK artists. But even now, you've got Nottingham artists coming out. You know, Young T and Bugsy are doing it for Nottingham. You know, on a massive scale. It's huge the scale they're doing it on. You know, and then the grime MCs, Wariko and people like that have always, you know, Nottingham's always been there. Mm-hmm. But it's not. Everyone knows each other because it's a small city. They might not talk, but at one point they've probably been in a studio with one of the other MCs or been to a jam, and you know, it's a small city, so everyone kind of, you know, gets on with each other.
It is interesting as well, again, being such a small city, and like again, it's hard to sort of remember like some of the names that come from certain places and some stuff sometimes, but you did rattle off a few names that I did recognise here, so that was pretty cool. Did they have a spot back in the day, like a regular gathering spot, like a nice open mic event that you could talk about maybe?
Not really, but yeah, Don't Flop started in Nottingham originally, but not really an open mic. But as in hip hop sessions, in the 80s, it was Rock City. There was only a few places: Covent Garden, probably Hacienda, and Rock City were the main places that were spoken about in UK hip hop history. So, you know, the great clashes between the sort of Assassinators and Rock City crew, and then, you know, sort of Manchester crews come down, you know, like Broken Glass and people came to Nottingham, and there was battles and challenges, as we used to call them, would happen. So as a venue, Rock City on a Saturday afternoon was one of the biggest hip hop venues in the country. You know, if people weren't going to Covent Garden and places like that, they travel up and come to Rock City. So it was a big venue for hip hop on a whole. Open mics, it was never really a place, as far as I can't remember it. We never really had a massive open mic session. You know,
is the club scene big enough in Nottingham that I could put forward a good club night? Is it like?
I'd love to say I know now, but I don't, because I've not been on the clubbing scene for a good few years. But
I mean like as in like hip hop. I mean like as in regular hip hop nights and gigs and stuff like that.
No, there isn't. There's DJ Archive does and DJ Expression do a night at the Old Angel, Return of the Hip Hop Freak. But it's a small pub. You know, to do a big night, there's not a lot of places that will. DJ Feed will play some hip hop at Prison where he DJs, but there isn't a set hip hop night where everyone can go and, you know, meet each other as we used to. The biggest things that used to happen in Nottingham were the UK takeovers that were put on by Joe Buda, Mr. Jam. I used to stage manage that with them, so me, Jam, and Joe Buda worked together on those. So it was, you know, Jam and Joe Buda's idea. And then I'd help out, you know, running things in the back. But in those days, we saw, you know, some of those, the lineups we had, you know, everyone from, where'd I start? Kano, Pro Green, the Mitchell Brothers, Estelle, Black Twang, Roots Maneuver, Rodney P, Skinny Man and Skits, Mark B. Blade, Task Force, Art the Ville, Wiley, Roll Deep, Sway, Lethal Bizzle, and these are like, you know, there was artists on artists that won the shows. I think we did 4. I can never remember if it was 4 or 5, but yeah, they were big shows. They'd be equivalent now of hosting a show with, you know, Stormzy, Chips, you know, sort of Skepta, you know, all those artists. It was massive, and they were packed. You know, we used to get 2,500 in a venue if we could, and it was to the rafters packed.
Yeah,
you know. So imagine Roots Maneuver doing Witness the Fitness and watching a crowd lose their mind. You know, and things like that. It was legendary in the day.
Sounds good, man. Sounds good. So let's get talking about your music, about the new album Circus you have coming out. You've just released a single called Sunset.
Yep.
Do you want to tell us a bit about that, man?
Yeah, Sunset's the last thing I recorded for the album, and then the first thing out, a bit strange. But the premise of the single, it's a bit more bouncy tune from normal.
It was a bit different for you. I thought that was pretty cool.
And it's really just saying that you've got to put in work. You've got to keep working and you know, just keep going. And if you keep working, you'll be successful. the actual album is called Circus, but it stands for Conditions in Reality Causing Us Stress. And it vaguely touches upon some things kind of in the last year that have happened with lockdown and not being able to go out, and just roughly talks about perspective on which way you see the last year or life in general can make a difference. So there's the first track called Circus literally talks about it's someone's gone to the circus and they witness two people talking, and the girl says, yeah, but we're all in the same boat. And the guy says, no, we're not. We're all in the same storm, but I'm sailing differently. I'm looking at this through a perspective that I need to survive. And I think it's very relevant for these days. Some people have loved lockdown, loved it. Some have absolutely hated it, to the stage that we know mental health has gone up or mental health cases have gone up in the last 18 months. It's highest that it's ever been. And we know that sort of suicide rates have gone up. They're higher than they've ever been because people can't cope with what's happening. But then there's other people that will say lockdown is the greatest thing that's ever happened to me. Working from home, spending more time with your kids, spending more time eating as a family, maybe going to the gym more.
I'm one of those people that have enjoyed and sort of reaped the benefits a bit of the whole thing. Of course, Zoom became huge. We've been able to sort of interview guys like yourself, and it's been interesting, man, this past week. Well, for me at least, but I know people have struggled quite a lot through that. So,
and that's sort of the premise of a lot of the album, is saying your opinion's your opinion. That's fine, and I've got my opinion, because there's a lot of you had the anti-vaxxers or the vaxxers, then the anti-masks or masks, and if you want to not wear, fine. If I want to wear, fine. If I don't want to wear, fine. If you want to, fine. It's your opinion, but it is just an opinion. And everyone has to do what they can do to get through the situation that we are in and are still going through and probably will go through for a good period of time. So it's just, there's a track on there called Opinions, and it literally is opinions are opinions. And it's just kind of talks about, don't judge me because it's just my opinion. Same way as I'm going to try, we're not all, great at it, but I'm going to try not to judge you on yours. You live your life, I'll live mine. As long as no one's hurting each other, don't matter.
That's it. And what kind of features are we looking for on this as well? What kind of features you got included?
I have, there's only a few features on it. I've got a guy called Midnight from Nottingham, who was on Midnight Precise, was on Sun Records. So people might remember him. He did a tune, a 12-inch with Styly C, No Frills, and also he did Nadia. And then he's on a tune called Prize Fighters. It's just me and Midnight kind of going back to back on. It's just a spitting tune. That's all.
I love that style as well.
Just a spitting tune. I've worked with Midnight over the years. He used to come to my house years ago and we'd record. We've done quite a few tracks together, and I just said, you've got to be on this. And then I've got Lee Ramsey, I've got Montana the Menace, and his brother Buddha on there as well. So yeah, it's not a major feature album, but I kind of like having one or two features, because these days it's rare to find an album that hasn't got every single track bar couple that are features. And I can't remember who I was speaking to the other day, but I was speaking to someone saying, if I write 3 tracks that have 3 verses on, that's the equivalent of some artists putting a full album out, because they put 9 tracks out and there's a feature on every album. I would, it'd be great to put an album out with 16 features and only have to do 16 16s, and then you've got a 16-track album. That'd be fantastic. But I don't really. I'd rather just get on with it, and I'm enjoying writing at the moment. So while I'm enjoying it, I'm just going to carry on doing it.
I think some people don't realise as well that a track with like 9 people in it makes it difficult for my job. I'm trying to go for an album, and then like I'm trying to listen out for the main rapper in the song, but there's like 9 different people, and I have to like find this guy somewhere in the midst.
Especially I think you're right. Especially with new artists that come out.
Yeah.
Sometimes you hear, if you don't recognise them fully, you hear the track, and you are thinking, okay, I hope on the cover, you know, or on Spotify, it lists the correct order.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to be going, yeah, my man's amazing, and then going, oh no, it's not him. That's
yeah. I've been through that before. I've spoke to someone a while back, and I was like, I was talking about a certain verse, and he was like, wasn't me. And I was the guy sounded exactly the same as his friend as well, which was really, really fucking difficult, but it's mad.
Yeah, so, it is. I suppose it is difficult these days when you get a million features on an album, but it's what happens now. So, you know, it's good for some, not good for others.
Yeah.
So.
What about production styles? Are we expecting the more bouncy tracks, or are you just going for a mixture? What are you doing this time?
Okay, I'll let you into a little secret. Originally, the Circus was 2 albums. It was a part 1 and part 2. And part 1 was, I hate the word, I hate using it, but kind of the bouncy hi-hat, trappy-ish kind of beats with heavily sampled though, obviously. And I had 9 tracks like that. Because I sent you a snippet of the album, so you would have heard some had kind of the hi-hat bouncy. And then the second half was boom bap. They both had intros that were the same sample flipped. So the same sample flipped on a kind of bouncy and then a straight boom bap. But when I put it together, it was coming in at about 18 tracks, and it was long. And I thought, I listened to it all as a part 1 and part 2, and I thought it's too long, and I don't want to have this concept out there for that long. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to strip it and put it out as a oneer. So it's got some of the bounces and some straight boom bap in the same album. But I've taken probably about 6 tracks out because they didn't fit the concept. But they'll be out as singles or on the next album afterwards.
That's cool, man. That's cool. Well, mate, it's been good for you. Well, I'm going to start that again.
It's been good for you talking to me. I love that. A bit of confidence there. How's it been for you, Frisco, talking to me? Steve, it's been fantastic. I've enjoyed it more than anything I have in a long time. So, thanks, man.
You know what? Just because you went in on me there, I'm going to keep it in. I have to, man.
I love that.
Well, thank you, is what I meant to say. Thank you for joining me. That's been much appreciated.
Do you know what? It's always nice to talk to you. And for any of the watchers or the listeners, Steve does more than he just does on this podcast. Mm-hmm. So, you know, behind the scenes, we've had messages and he's helped me out with a lot. So I just want to say thank you for that, because, you know, I know people don't always give credit or realize what people do apart from this. So appreciate what you did on, you know, the contacts and stuff. Most appreciated. And everyone, just check me out on the socials: Frisco Boogie, Snapchat, Insta, Facebook, TikTok, Spotify. Mm-hmm. Just check me out, Frisco Boogie, and look out for that album.